joined now by another one of America's most iconic voices on civil rights. For more than half a century, he's been one of the most important figures in the battle against racism in the United States. The Rev Jesse Jackson joins me from Chicago. Well, good evening and thanks for taking time to speak to us here on the program.
How do you do?
Okay, I'm doing very well, thanks, Reverend. Let me start by asking you, of course, we've seen so many...
Those are marching.
We've seen so many cases...
Those are marching in Britain. I'm sorry.
Do carry on. No, do carry on.
Those are marching in Britain. They're in the best tradition of Wilberforce in Britain, who was such a huge force for abolition of slavery. So I want to thank those who are marching in Britain and France because they're in the best tradition of making the world more secure.
Well, let me ask you about that, because, we've seen so many tragedies like George Floyd on both sides of the Atlantic. Do you feel that something is different this time?
What's different is that it's on camera and it's being discussed. Since 2013, thousands of citizens have been killed a year by police. When the killer of George Floyd was arrested, first time in history of Minnesota, police have been arrested for killing a black in the history of Minnesota. He had been 18 counts. He should have been fired a long time ago. The police are protected from obligation by police unions, and that must change.
Okay. Well, Donald Trump tweeted this morning that he's done more for black people. He's been the best president and has done more for them since Abraham Lincoln. What's your response to that?
Well, it's not true. As we fought for the right to vote protected, he's fought against that. The case of his first case in court was against housing discrimination, housing owners. That's not true. My concern is that if he makes this German-esque move to militarize this situation, we'll respond as Bonhoeffer and Nemo did. We'll have to go to jail. We will resist him mightily with our bodies and live inside. We will not allow that to happen without a massive fight back.
Okay. Well, President Trump, of course, has threatened to use the military. In the last time that happened in the United States was President Bush in '92, when those 4 white officers were acquitted of beating up Rodney King. Looking ahead now, Joe Biden, of course, is running against him, or he's expected to be the Democratic nominee. Do you think he's the man who can bring about change?
I think Joe Biden can do it, plus the forces that support Joe Biden will demand that it happen. Our democracy cannot give way to a police state. Police will kill without accountability as a police state. And President Trump wants to reinforce their police powers, and the fact of the matter is they should be more civil. 96% of the police don't live in Minneapolis. Police should live in the city where they police. They should be next to their neighbors and friends, not just outside occupiers. A lot's going to change from this confrontation.
Okay. Well, you mentioned earlier, of course, that perhaps the big difference now is that some of these acts are being caught on camera. But do you feel that that's going to be enough to really bring about change, or do you fear that in 6 months' time, perhaps like in 1992 when Rodney King, or after Rodney King was beaten up, that this issue is going to be forgotten and people are just going to be focusing on the economy in the election?
Yesterday, a guy named Stephen King, a congressman from our racist country, he was defeated yesterday democratically. In First Missouri, where Michael Brown was killed, a black female won as mayor yesterday. We were making progress. Black mayor in Atlanta, Washington, Birmingham, Selma, Augusta, Savannah, Dallas, Houston. So while there's this stiff wind of resistance against the odds, we're making progress, and we're not going back. We're not going to stand still.
See. What message do you have for people, who are rallying, of course, not only in the United States and here in France, in the UK, as we've seen, but also, around the world?
Well, violence is a diversion. The focus becomes bringing cause opposed to a quest for justice. It's politically exposed because Nixon was able to turn the rise of Dr. King's assassination into frightening white people enough to elect him as president. He beat Humphrey by 500,000 votes. In some sense, violence blurs the message. We want to focus on police behavior, civil rights, the census, and the right to vote come November. We will remember come November.
Well, you mentioned there the police violence, and of course, as we've mentioned, there is that Officer Derek Chauvin who's facing that third-degree murder charge. Do you think that's sufficient, of course, and what about the other 3 officers?
All 4 should be charged with murder. They were part of killing him. Well, it's not the police who killed George knew him. Knew he had a white girlfriend. He's a nationalist, a white supremacist. We don't know what his motive was until the investigation is complete. He knew George Floyd. And the things about George Floyd he did not like. Maybe it was his chance. A thorough investigation let us know. All we know is that he killed him. Public lynching deserves a response by the police chief. He fired 4 of them. They should be charged with murder, first degree, really, immediately.
Okay, let me ask you about what Joe Biden said yesterday, where he called for reform of the police, and he said Congress has the power to make this happen now. How likely do you think that is?
I don't know. I know the Congress should pass a federal anti-lynching law. It has not done that. The states have not passed federal state anti-lynching laws. In 1880 and 1950, 5,000 blacks were lynched as a way of just taking us out of the South. So it must come strong. Anti-lynching legislation. Police who attack people must be held personally liable. They cannot be able to kill people and have some cushion from accountability. That has to end.
Okay. Well, you say it has to end, but what kind of response are you looking for authorities to carry out now?
Well, election in November will have a lot to do with a new climate, new attorney general, a new disposition towards civil rights and social justice and gender equality. And so it's dark, but we have to hold on until the morning. The morning will come. Don't give up. Don't give up hope. Also, march are full of hope, by the way. Hope is in competition with despair. Hope is going to beat despair in this campaign. We must keep our hopes alive.
But at the same time as that, that message has been echoed for decades, more than 100 years, of course, only in the United States, if not elsewhere. Fundamentally, when we're talking about social and economic deprivation in so many states across your country, on a day-to-day level, what can people be doing to make them feel that they're making a difference?
I said to a young man the other day in Minnesota, I said, young man, I said, you should register. He said, I'm not going to register, I'm not going to vote, I'm not in the system. I said, well, if the killer came to court, would you like to vote against him? He said, yes. All those who registered to vote can serve as jurors. He said, oh, there's power in the vote. Power in nonviolent demonstrations. Power in having the moral authority. We have the law on our side, moral authority, and marching feet. We use those weapons, and at the same time, keep our eye on Code 19. As the pandemic of racial violence, there's also the pandemic of this corona. So we cannot be marching one week and be facing, poison bodies the next week. We're supposed at the same time.
Just before we let you go, Reverend, there's one final question which I've just received from a viewer, and it's said to me, on the visits to the United States, New York, LA, it seems to him that America still seems to be quite divided. There's quite clear racial lines between, black communities, Mexican communities, white communities. Do you think, more needs to be done to integrate people?
Well, at least desegregate. The Civil War is unfinished in our country. The section of our country never gave up on slavery, Jim Crow, but we win in those wars. Dr. King spoke in 1963 from Texas to Florida to Maryland. We couldn't use a single public toilet. We couldn't vote. black soldiers sat behind Nazi prisoner of war. We're changing. And I fight to changing the scene. A black mayor of Ferguson, Missouri, where Michael Brown was killed. It's a big deal. It took place last time on the cover, so to speak, of cameras. Black mayor in Birmingham and Montgomery, where Dr. King led the boycott. In Richmond, Virginia, where the Confederates lived. So this is a very dark moment and difficult moment, but through it all, we're not going to give up. We're going to keep our hopes alive. We're going to learn to live together as brothers and sisters, not die apart as fools. A multiracial, multicultural society is our goal. We're going to maintain it. I'm impressed. The young whites joining us in this struggle. People in London and France. I want to thank people of London and people of France for making us a global struggle for racial justice and gender equality. Thank you so much.
Reverend Jackson, thank you so much for joining us here on Euronews tonight.